And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hi there, I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska Aviation Weather Outlook. It is Sunday, April 14th, 2024, and this outlook is for Monday and Tuesday to start out the week. And what we are watching, though, a couple of main weather features. Low pressure crossing as of this Sunday midday, crossing the central Aleutians. That low will track northeastward to just north of St. Paul, and then up toward the west coast as we go through Monday into Tuesday. And then off to the east, high pressure, a ridge of high pressure will be building out of the North Pacific up into the Gulf and then over the Panhandle. So between these two systems here, throughout areas of south central, southeast mainland and the Panhandle, clear skies, drier conditions, warming temperatures, that strong sunshine, the insulation we get this time of year is really going to warm things up. A number of areas in the Panhandle will be warming to daytime highs in the 50s, even near 60 degrees. You can even see 50-degree readings around Anchorage, with a lot of snow melt anticipated here in south central this week. But with the low and with the circulation around the backside of the high, we have a southerly flow that's going to be riding up along the west side of the state. So temperatures are going to gradually be rising above freezing, especially, say, from the Seward Peninsula southward. But we're going to see a burst of some snow and blowing snow. So areas of around Kuskokwim Bay, Nunavik Island, and lower Yukon Basin, around Norton Sound, Seward Peninsula, all the way up along the northwest coast. We're going to see a period of blowing snow and snow as we go through Monday into Tuesday. So the system, though, will be lifting with some snow and rain across the Pribilovs, and then again, that will overspread north and northeastward as we go through the day Monday and into Tuesday. A number of winter weather-related warnings and advisories will be posted from the lower Yukon northward. So definitely get the latest weather information as you may, because there could be blizzard conditions at times, especially along coastal areas of the Chukchi Sea and along there of the surrounding Norton Sound, especially the Seward Peninsula and maybe the outer portion of the Yukon Delta. But that's where the IFR conditions will be. We have that southerly flow going up the south-facing slopes here, the Brooks Range, so we're going to have stronger winds as well. As we go into Monday afternoon, notice IFR conditions there, the Bering Strait, Chukchi Sea, all the way down through the lower Yukon and Nunavik Island, all the way to St. Paul. Again, VFR conditions ruling here, south central, southeast, up into the central eastern interior. All of the Panhandle, much better, more improved weather conditions. Same thing Tuesday morning, VFR throughout the Panhandle, northeastern Gulf Coast. We have some MVFR along the Alaska Range, western, northern parts of the Gulf, but especially here from the Chukchi Sea and along the south-facing slopes of the Brooks Range, all the way down along the west-southwest coast into the eastern Aleutians, tip of the Alaska Peninsula. IFR conditions, low ceilings, snow blowing snow up through this region, especially Monday night into Tuesday morning. So very difficult. Flying will not be happening in those areas, as IFR will be the rule. And then Tuesday afternoon, we expect still some areas of IFR lingering there on the south slopes of the Brooks Range, southwest side of the Seward Peninsula, areas around Bristol Bay, and on the Pacific side, especially there of the Alaska Peninsula. But once again, Tuesday afternoon with that ridge of high pressure building up through this region, VFR conditions, eastern, southeast interior, and also the entire Panhandle. So pass conditions coming out here for Anaktuvuk Pass on Monday. We're looking at MVFR conditions becoming IFR, generally IFR conditions outside there of the south entrance, because we're going to have that south-southwest flow of a little warmer, milder air coming northward, so that will help create lower ceilings and even eventually some precipitation further west. Adigan Pass, same thing, MVFR becoming IFR with generally IFR conditions along the southward-facing slopes as you get down there from the Brooks Range. Lake Clark and Merrill will be enough under the influence of some drier air to see VFR conditions on Monday. Rainy Pass, VFR all the way through the Alaska Range. VFR windy pass through Isabel and Mentasta, coming down across the Copper River Basin, Copper River Basin has a lot of snow cover, a lot of snow melt going to happen there this week. VFR conditions at Tanita Pass, as well as Portage Pass, and then further east, Chilkoot and White in the northern panhandle will enjoy VFR conditions, and those VFR conditions will be extensive throughout the panhandle here as we go through early and midweek. Looking at the freezing levels at the surface, we have the surface freezing line Monday morning into the northern Bering, just southwest of St. Matthew, down along the central portion of the Alaska Peninsula, coming on up along the eastern Kenai and along the northern Gulf Coast in through the inner channels of the Panhandle. And if I step out of the way here, find the freezing levels do bump up south of the Aleutians to 8,000 feet. The frontal system down this way it gets occluded, so at least the warmer temperatures aloft are not going to stream way northward, but there will be some advancement, though, as we head through the day Monday into Tuesday. So that means higher freezing levels in those areas. So the greatest threat for icing, because we have the high pressure building here, skies will generally be clear to partly cloudy, so no threat of icing southern areas of the mainland or the Panhandle up into the interior. But along the west coast, we could see some areas of moderate icing possible, with any areas of snow, thicker cloud cover from the North Slope, northwest Arctic coast along the Chukchi Sea, all the way throughout the northern eastern Bering Sea to along the lower Yukon Delta down into the eastern Aleutians. And looking at the winds aloft, we have a trough out here over eastern Russia, so we have wind flow southwesterly along the west side of the state, 70 to 80 knots. There is a wind max here that's south of Haida Gwaii out over the North Pacific, coming into Vancouver out of the west-northwest, upwards of 130 knots. But the main mid-level feature at 700 millibars or 9,000 feet, we have a very strong broad area of, say, 50 to as high as 75, 80 knot winds right along the west coast of mainland Alaska. The ridge is building here. You can see in the mid-levels, this is the building high-pressure ridge from the North Pacific, extending up through the Gulf into the southeast mainland and northern Panhandle. This feature is going to dominate this weather coming up this week into the early weekend before it maybe folds back over the Panhandle. So again, this is the active weather area along the west coast again with this kind of setup. Winds at 3,000 feet, quite strong, anywhere from 40, 50 knots along the Arctic coast, northwest coast there along the Chukchi Sea, and then especially from Nome southward down through the Yukon Delta, Etolan Strait to just off of Bristol Bay, 50 to 65 knot south-southwest winds. And of course, with that kind of wind, we expect turbulence to be an issue. So along the west coast, there could be some areas of severe turbulence near Kuskokwim Bay to Nunavik Island, as well as back towards St. Paul. And that's generally surface to 3,000, surface to 4,000 feet, but a very broad area of moderate turbulence along areas of the Brooks Range, west coast, extending all the way down the Alaska Peninsula into the eastern and central Aleutians. Moderate turbulence likely, and even some fingers of that moderate turbulence coming up along the west side of the Alaska Range, extending all the way up as we go up into the central interior, surface to 4,000 feet.